They think the absence of your voice means they have won. But the silence you leave behind is a blade sharper than any insult, and it cuts where they cannot heal. In the game of power, the loudest strike is often the weakest. True mastery lies in withdrawing so completely that your shadow itself refuses to linger. The enemy is left not with the satisfaction of your defeat, but with the gnawing emptiness of your absence, a void they cannot fill, a question they cannot answer. Understand this: to disappear without a trace is not surrender, it is a sentence. And in that silence, they hear the echo of their own insignificance. They tell you that silence is weakness, that if you do not speak, you have lost. Only fools believe this. In the arena of power, words are arrows, visible, predictable, and easily blocked. Silence is the dagger in the dark. Think of a general who refuses to answer the enemy's taunts. The opposing army shouts, mocks, demands his surrender, yet his banners remain still, his campfires cold. Panic begins, not in his troops, but in theirs. Why? Because nothing unsettles the human mind like the absence of expected resistance. The human psyche is built on patterns. When you remove the expected response, you shatter the rhythm of the opponent's mind. They ask themselves, why are you not reacting? And in that question lies the first fracture of their control. History teaches us this. In the Italian wars, there were commanders who, when insulted, said nothing for months. The enemy prepared for retaliation, sharpened their blades, but nothing came. Then, when complacency set in, the strike landed, without warning, without mercy. Your silence works the same way. In conflict, the other side hungers for your voice. It reassures them that they still matter in your world. Remove it, and they are left to feed on their own thoughts. Thoughts are dangerous, especially to the insecure. You see, silence forces them to speak to themselves, and no voice is more cruel than the one inside their own head. They will invent your motives. They will imagine your plans. They will create demons in the shadows where you stand unseen. Psychologists know this phenomenon well. It is called the projection of fear into the unknown. When the mind cannot see the enemy, it makes the enemy larger. Every moment of your absence, they sharpen the blade, but they do not realize they are turning it inward. Silence is not simply the absence of words. It is the presence of control. It says, I do not need to convince you. I do not need to defend myself. I am beyond the reach of your noise. Consider the chess master who refuses to make a hurried move. The opponent waits, grows impatient, starts overthinking. A bad move is born not from weakness, but from the hunger to fill the void you have created. But silence requires discipline. Your ego will demand that you respond. It will whisper, show them you are not afraid. Ignore it. Your goal is not to prove your courage. It is to unbalance theirs. The beauty of this weapon is its subtlety. It leaves no fingerprints. No words they can twist against you. No proof of your intentions. Only doubt, which spreads like smoke through their thoughts. In the courts of Renaissance Italy, this tactic was often the difference between survival and ruin. A whispered rumor might destroy a man's reputation, but total silence could make him a ghost, untouchable, unreachable, and more feared than any open enemy. And here lies the paradox. When you are silent, they will speak louder. They will shout to draw you back into the battlefield. Do not answer. Every word they waste is a resource burned in vain. Remember this. The greatest insult is to deny your enemy the war they want. The greatest dominance is to dictate the field where the war will be fought, even if that field is emptiness itself. You are not retreating. You are letting their own momentum carry them into ruin. And when they finally fall quiet, when the noise collapses under its own weight, you will know that your silence has done what words never could. But silence is only the beginning. The next move is starvation. The narcissist thrives on one thing: not love, not respect, attention. They are not fueled by truth or loyalty, only by the reflection of themselves in your eyes. Every smile you give, every argument you have, every tear you shed, it is all nourishment to them. You think you can defeat them with confrontation. No. Confrontation is a feast. They will twist your anger into proof that you still care. They will drink from your outrage as if it were wine. The only way to wound them is not with the sword, but with famine. Remove yourself from their stage. Do not give applause. Do not even boo. Leave them to perform for an empty room. In the courts of power, this was known as the withdrawal of favor. Kings used it to destroy ambitious courtiers without ever issuing a public decree. One day, the courtier basked in royal attention. The next, the king's gaze simply passed over him as if he did not exist. His rivals did not even need to draw blood. His irrelevance did the work. You can do the same. When you stop reacting, you begin starving their ego. They will try to provoke you, to bait you into feeding them again. A compliment here, an insult there, perhaps a sudden crisis designed to pull you back in. Do not take the bait. Understand the psychology. A narcissist's identity is fragile. It is built entirely on external validation. Without it, cracks appear. They begin questioning their worth, then scramble to restore it by pulling harder on your emotions. You must become a sealed fortress. No gates to open. No windows to peek through. Look at the tactics of ancient siege warfare. When a city could not be taken by force, the enemy cut off its supply lines. No food, no water, no reinforcements. The city would eventually open its gates, not out of choice, but out of starvation. The narcissist is that city. Your attention is their supply line. Cut it, and the siege begins. At first, they will rage. They will attempt to break your walls with fury. Then they will bargain. They will attempt charm. Then, most dangerous of all, they will feign weakness to appeal to your empathy. This is where most people fail. They confuse pity for mercy. But in this game, mercy restores the enemy's strength. One drop of attention is enough to restart the cycle. You must remember, starvation is not cruelty. It is necessity. By feeding them, you allow the parasite to live within you. By starving them, you reclaim your resources for yourself. In the Renaissance, the most feared rulers were not those who punished swiftly, but those who exiled without ceremony. To be cut off from the ruler's presence was to be erased from relevance. It was a death without bloodshed. You are that ruler now. The court is your mind. Decide who is permitted inside and banish those who poison the air. Each day you deny them your attention, their desperation grows. They will seek other sources of supply, and in doing so, reveal their true dependence. You will see clearly that their power was never real. It was borrowed from you, and once they realize the well is dry, they will either wither or wander. Your silence was the first cut. Your starvation is the slow blade. But the most devastating blow is yet to come, when you punish without lifting a hand. Some punishments you can see: a slap, a public humiliation, a loss of title or position. But the most devastating punishment is the one that leaves no mark. The kind that lives only in the mind of the one who receives it. This is the art of invisible punishment. It is not about striking the body, but striking the certainty. When there is no confrontation, no explanation, no closure, the mind begins to turn on itself. Consider the prisoner locked not in chains, but in a silent cell. No trial, no sentence, just an endless wait. What breaks him is not the walls, it is the questions he cannot answer. This is how you defeat without drawing a blade. When you deny the guilty the clarity of their crime, you force them to invent the verdict. They replay every moment, every word, every gesture. Searching for what sealed their fate, they will dissect themselves with a precision you could never match. History holds countless examples. In the courts of Europe, monarchs would sometimes banish a courtier without declaring the reason. The courtier, stripped of audience with the crown, would spend the rest of his days wondering who whispered against him or what moment of indiscretion had been noticed. Some even destroyed themselves in frantic attempts to make things right, not realizing the game was already over. You see, punishment without a visible executioner becomes eternal, because the victim cannot fight what they cannot see. In modern life, the same principle holds. Cut someone out without accusation, and you rob them of the ability to defend themselves. The absence of your presence becomes an unsolvable riddle, and in that riddle lies their torment. Psychologically, humans crave resolution. We need the story to end. Without it, the mind runs endlessly, trying to finish the narrative. It is this loop, this endless knowing why, that eats them alive. And here is the power. They cannot accuse you of cruelty without admitting their own fear. They cannot claim you have struck them, because you have done nothing they can name. Your punishment is invisible, yet it shapes their days and nights. But be warned, this requires patience. You must resist the urge to reveal your strategy. The moment you explain yourself, the punishment ends. You hand them the weapon to heal themselves. This is why the most strategic rulers understood the value of mystery. A tyrant's decree might terrify, but the unknown will of the ruler was worse. No one dared move against what they could not predict. When you wield invisible punishment, you place your enemy in that same fog. They cannot advance. They cannot retreat. They can only stand still, burning their own strength against the walls of uncertainty. You may think this is too cold, but cold is the nature of lasting victory. Mercy satisfies the moment. Uncertainty commands the future. Every day they wake not knowing your thoughts, you win again. Every night they wonder if you still think of them, you have already occupied their mind. Their fear becomes your presence, even in your absence. And when they finally crumble, when their need for answers outweighs their pride, they will come to you not as an equal, but as a supplicant. Invisible punishment is not about vengeance. It is about control without effort, dominance without noise, victory without battle. But even this is not the end. Because the most lasting power does not come from punishing, it comes from making the punishment permanent. And that is the power of finality. Some wounds heal. Some chains can be broken. But the blow that leaves no path back, that is the strike that changes everything. Finality is not simply an ending. It is the sealing of the door behind you. It is not goodbye, but there will never be another word. Most people fail because they leave the door open. They want revenge but also want to be seen taking it. They want to hurt but still be heard. This is weakness. The possibility of return is the oxygen that keeps your opponent's hope alive. In power, hope is your enemy's greatest shield. Remove it, and they collapse under the weight of reality. Consider the fate of political traitors in Renaissance courts. When a ruler truly wanted someone erased, they did not arrest them publicly. They did not torture them for all to see. No, they exiled them in such a way that no petition, no bribe, no ally could ever restore their place. Their name was never spoken again in court. It was as if they had ceased to exist. This is the cruelty of finality. Once applied, there is no negotiation. It removes the chance of redemption. And in doing so, it removes your enemy's will to resist. Think about your own conflicts. How many times have you seen people leave? Just enough connection to keep the game alive. A message unanswered but read. A door locked but with the key still under the mat. This is not dominance. It is a delay. If you wish to reclaim your power completely, you must burn the bridge so thoroughly that even you cannot cross it again. Psychologically, this act rewrites the balance of power. When they realize there is no return, they are forced into acceptance, not on their terms, but on yours. There is no bargaining with absence. Do you understand why this works so deeply? Because the human mind clings to unfinished stories. When you make the ending absolute, you give them nothing left to chase, no letter to write, no final meeting to arrange. Their hands close on air. In ancient military campaigns, finality was symbolized by the scorched earth strategy. Armies retreating from battle would burn their own fields and destroy their own bridges. Not to spite the enemy, but to remove any possibility of return. The message was clear: we will never come back, and you will never follow. In your own life, finality must be delivered the same way, clean, undeniable, and beyond reversal. No half measures, no signals of doubt. But here lies the challenge: finality demands that you have already let go. If you still secretly desire their validation, you will hesitate, and hesitation is the crack they will exploit. When you decide to end it, you must end it in your own mind first. The execution is only the outward proof of an inward decision. And yes, they will try to reopen the door. They will send words meant to stir guilt. They will play the part of the changed soul. They will dangle memories in front of you like bait. You must be colder than memory, colder than sentiment. In the moment you show even the smallest sign of return, you forfeit all the power you built. But when you hold the line, when you maintain the finality, they will come to understand the truth. Your absence is not a phase. It is the new reality. And nothing is more powerful than reality, because reality cannot be argued with. It cannot be bargained with. It simply is. Finality is the last move, the one from which there is no counter. But remember this: every last move in power is also the first move toward your next conquest. Control is never taken with force alone. It is taken in whispers, in the quiet redirection of thought, in the space where they believe the decision was theirs. You do not need chains to hold someone, only their own mind turned against itself. Ask yourself, how many people already move in the direction you choose, without knowing your hand is on the wheel? And how many more could follow if you learn to vanish your influence into their will? Power is not in being seen. It is in being felt everywhere, yet nowhere to be found. If this has unsettled you, good. It means you have seen a glimpse of the hidden architecture behind human behavior. The question is, will you use it or be used by it? Leave your thoughts below. Subscribe if you desire more of the weapons they will never see coming. And share this, not for numbers, then forces them to admire, but to sharpen the minds of those you wish to keep close or keep under.